From Cask Cartel, this is the Cartel Hour. I'm Cameron Stevens.
And my name is Seth Benheim.
Together, we're tasting all kinds of spirits with master distillers, celebrity guests, and more. We're here to learn a little bit and drink a little bit. So grab a glass and let's enjoy. Welcome back to the Infusory for another episode of the Cartel Hour. My name is Cameron Stevens.
And my name is Seth Benheim.
And we are talking with some barrel pickers today. We're doing barrel picks from across, like all different kind of categories. We're joined by Micah Rochelle from Bounty Hunter, and we've got Brandon Hunt from Bourbon Charity. How's it going, guys?
Great, thanks. How are you?
Oh, we're doing well, but we're gonna get better as we dive into some of these things.
Absolutely, yeah. I wanted to actually ask this question right out of the gate. Brandon, can you tell us a little bit about Bourbon Charity?
Sure. Bourbon Charity is a 501c3 nonprofit. We do 5 fundraisers throughout the year where we give away very rare and allocated bourbon. We raise money for probably around 25 different nonprofit charities this year. I can see you got the Bourbon Hood samples in front of you. We are funded, our operations of the charities funded by Bourbon Hood members. We're 480 members strong that donate on a monthly basis so we can get all this rare and allocated bourbon and do all these fundraisers so we can give close to 100% to the charities that we support. We're at 92% right now. So we think we'll be there in the next 6 months.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive because, there's like overhead and operations and all this kind of stuff. And that's a great percentage, actually.
And you're out in Phoenix, Arizona, right?
Yep, out in Arizona.
Nice. And Micah, where are you right now?
Napa, California.
And you're sitting at your wine bar, is that correct?
Yep, sitting at the wine bar restaurant, which is also now, because of the COVID restrictions, a full-on retail store for wine and spirits. So we have probably 600 wines and 150 spirits laid out for retail sale.
Oh, wow.
I would love to go there when this whole COVID thing is all over. It sounds like paradise.
I miss NorCal so much.
I know.
And you've got a couple other restaurants as well, right, Micah?
We have one here in Napa and then another restaurant in Walnut Creek, which is also operating as a retail store currently as well. So yes, when COVID ends, I would like to come back to LA as well. I miss SoCal as much as you guys miss NorCal. So
yeah,
fair enough.
Can never have enough of both.
Well, exactly. We're going to be diving into single barrels today. And I thought one of the fun places to start would be, obviously, since you both have experience picking barrels and ultimately releasing them. What do you guys remember? Like the first barrel you ever picked?
The first barrel I ever picked, I think it was 2012, maybe 2013. And it was a Weller 107 in the old packaging.
Oh, wow.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you have any of that left?
I have one bottle in my house.
Nice.
That is still unopened, and I'm not sure when I'll get to it.
Yeah.
Almost for sentimental value, obviously, from the career that you've built in spirits. I'm not going to say, you should never open it, but it sounds like it's pretty special along your career.
Yeah, it's one of those that everybody has a first in every walk of life, right? And you kind of need to commemorate those. I'm sure I will open it for a special occasion one day.
There you
go. But it's got to be the right time.
Oh yeah. And Brandon, what about you?
Oh man, I can't top that OG barrel pick there. My first one was actually this year, and I've done 8 since. This year, 2020, was Iron Root Republic.
Oh, cool.
We did it in support of Fisher House Foundation, which was pretty awesome because the pick was called "I'm Your Huckleberry." And actually, Tombstone, the Wyatt Earp, was from Denison, Texas, where Iron Root Republic was distillery is. So it was kind of nice in that way, and we're able to I think raise around $3,000 for the military.
Amazing.
Oh, fantastic. Now, here's, barrel picking, right? The topic of today's episode, and single barrels in general. It's an interesting subject matter. And recently there were a few articles that have come out, and I'm blanking. If you guys know, remind me of the publication that put out, I think the big one, uh, kind of not knocking barrel picking, but giving people a little bit more of the politics of barrel picking and sort of the marketing around barrel picking. If for anyone that's really starting to get into whiskey, for listeners, you start going on these, Facebook groups, or you start looking at Instagram, and you'll see these bottles, and they've got these very artistic, very sometimes over the top stickers and store picks. So it can range from like a tiny little neck label to maybe a gold stamp of some kind, or some handwritten notes, to even the more elaborate, where you have like Michael Jordan dunking a bottle over, a Looney Tunes rabbit or something. Or I think one of my favorite stickers was the Oscar Mayer version of the Russell's turkey. That one has always stood in my memory as like one of these. So these, people are almost like going after the sticker as much as the product itself, or the person that picked it, or the store that offered it. And it's just a crazy subcategory of every kind of whiskey. So maybe Micah, I feel like you got some comments just on that, just introduction there as well.
Well, yeah. The evolution of barrel picking, it really started, at least in my career. I remember seeing bottlings in the late 90s, early 2000s of like rare single barrels of Pappy that Julian would pick himself for specific accounts. And that was really, I think, what started to develop a trend that became what it is today. So when I started doing barrel picks in the early 2010s, it was predominantly done by stores. The artistic labels hadn't become really a thing yet. You were lucky if you could send them a logo to put on the side of the bottle. Usually they just wrote your name on a label somewhere, and a lot of them still just do that. But as this has evolved, as I think this is a function of bourbon collectorship in the first place, right? The bourbon explosion we've had to find new niches for people to find things to collect, because the allocated goods go away so quickly. There has to be another avenue, right? So barrel picks, once we dive into the picks in front of you, companies like Old Elk, who are relatively new distilleries, already have barrel programs. Woodinville in Washington, Woody Creek in Colorado, all these companies are already doing barrel picks, and they're very young whiskey companies compared to the old guard of Heaven Hill and Buffalo Trace and these other brands. So I think the desire to collect these is born from the desire to collect other bourbons that frankly are really hard to get. These are the next best thing, quote unquote. They are limited because they're a single barrel. So you get anywhere from, I've had Four Roses barrels that were bottled as few as 97 bottles to as many as 180. So, if you have a barrel that only yields 97 bottles, people are going to want that. And that's what I think that's where the barrel picking has taken its own course. But that's also why I think the artistic labels and these other flourishes that you can add to the program have become so sought after, because they really are. It's an expression, right? This is just another expression of one person's taste, or what one person thinks someone else might like. And that's where it goes from there.
Very well said.
Yeah. I love, Brandon, if you could kind of take that and run with it, because one of the most interesting aspects of barrel picking to me is that creative process. It's the idea that this is born from somebody's palate, from their experience, from what they want to shine into the world. And it's sort of like a step two, right? Because it's filtered from the distiller and then through you. So talk us through that thought process.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's an art, distilling bourbon and making bourbon is an art. And I think some of the stickers represent that art, how the creativity involved in crafting some of those stickers. And it's also an expression of yourself and of your group. It's saying, hey, I belong to this clique, or I belong to that clique, and this is what we have. This is what we have to offer. And it's something that sets these groups apart from other groups, as we're competing for allocation and having some show candy, so to speak, for Instagram. I think it just adds to the whole bourbon persona. And what makes it awesome is that, wine's not doing these cool stickers, gin's not doing, vodka's not. Bourbon is the spirit that's really kind of innovating with this, which I think is really cool.
You don't see scotch single barrel picks with these elaborate, like Michael Jordan stickers on them. I think it almost feels counterculture, although maybe I just haven't seen it yet, but
you'll start to see those.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming.
I would imagine.
They're not going to let Americans have all the fun.
No. Though I from the Scotch perspective, picking single barrels of Scotch is a bit more of a challenge in a way, because the yields are so dramatically, they're so much larger than bourbon. You're getting a hogshead's getting you 300 bottles easy.
Right.
Yeah.
If you pick up a sherry butt, you're getting 600, 700 bottles out of that. And that's, for any group, whether it's, unless it's one of the bigger whiskey societies that's out there, that's a really daunting amount to take on from a perspective of how are you going to move a little bit of product, right? So, but you'll start seeing, and I think the reason to start doing the artistic labels is because you're going to see more collectors diving into that pool once you have a little bit more of an attractive package. That's my personal thought, which is why I think it's coming.
Well, the groups, I mean, we talk about the groups, like who's picking the barrels. That's another, piece of this. So Micah, you're picking barrels to sell retail and when it opens up by the restaurant, by the glass. And Brandon, you're picking them for a cause and for a group, the Bourbon Hood group. But you also mentioned there, Micah, whiskey societies. And so there's a few different avenues to get these whiskey picks. And it's not just retail stores or online websites. But there's also some camaraderie and some rarity to belonging to a group that can then give you access to a certain barrel or a certain sticker, right? So, and so Brandon, being, just about a year into barrel picking, you have a much fresher perspective. When did the group start relative to when the barrel picking sort of began?
Right around the same time. I mean, we knew we had to evolve as a charity. We knew we needed monthly donations to come in to carry our overhead costs. So we were looking at forming a group to contribute monthly, but we had to add value there. Add value as in getting tickets to our fundraisers, adding value as in getting swag, adding value as in doing barrel picks and getting that exclusive opportunity to be part of not only choosing the barrel, but also purchasing the barrel. So just it kind of evolved of how do we give more value back to the people that donate to us. And it was just a logical progression to start doing barrel picks.
Got it. So kind of just right out of the gate, but it wasn't like you started this so that you had enough people to do a barrel pick and do it under the charitable sort of lens, so to speak.
Correct. We started doing it distillery only in the beginning. So we partner with like Iron Root or Starlight, some of the smaller distilleries, but they would do it on site. But then we started getting enough following where we started partnering with retailers saying, okay, can we get on purchasing this barrel with you? Part of it will go through, on site, and the other part will go to Mash and Grape where they can ship out nationwide. So we kind of just have evolved to where we're growing as far as the volume we can move, and then the barrel pick opportunities that come our way.
And it's like a big percent of the proceeds for people buying on like a website or something go back to Bourbon Charity.
Yeah, so it's $15 from every bottle purchased of our barrel picks. So we work with the retailers, the distributors, even the distillery to get that at no extra cost on top of the bottle. So it's at retail or below, and we're baking in that $15 margin.
Are you looking for more distilleries? Is that kind of the game plan for 2021? And
absolutely, we've got quite a few distilleries that we've picked up as far as doing barrel picks with. We're partnering with Wild Turkey coming up on our Valentine's Day fundraiser.
Oh, cool.
There you go.
That's big time. These are
Yeah.
the big guys.
I
You got to
That's-
get Elijah Craig doing one.
do
Unless
love me
you've
some
al-
Elijah
unless
Craig.
you've already done it. I don't know if you've done it or not, but
Not
Uh,
Elijah
well-
yet.
Wild Turkey is one of the best programs to do picks with too. They really, you know, I would have, if I had any left, I would have sent one of those, to be honest with you guys, but they're sold out. So I didn't have any to send you, but you know, you're going the right direction, it seems, Brendan, because you know, from my understanding with groups, they need to, you know, in situations like that, you need to work with retailers in order to get the access. So it's, you know, the distilleries want to work with groups and work with whiskey societies and you know, but particularly charities. I think you guys have a leg up even on some of the societies because look, you're trying to raise money for a good cause, and I think that's really important. And you know, distilleries respond to that quite a bit. You know, it's we did a fundraising effort a couple of years ago where we sold a trip to Kentucky essentially at a fundraiser here in Napa, and the winners got to join me for a barrel picking trip to Kentucky. And all the
There you go.
distilleries,
That's cool.
you know, they just roll out the red carpet for stuff like that because it's charity and it's important to give back to your communities and your society. So
Well, I would love to start drinking because we've got a lot to taste through.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys would love to pour something up as well. But I don't know. This is so fascinating to me because,
I have,
you know,
I have still so many questions.
I know,
too.
because to me, I feel like you guys have been able to peek behind the curtain. I feel like this is sort of like a Wizard of Oz type
Like,
thing.
definitely, I want to get into like what the experience
Exactly,
of
exactly. Because I've never done it, you know?
from craft to corporate, kind of what the two sides of that look like. But let's do it with alcohol.
Let's do it with booze.
in our
I
mouths.
promise I'm more entertaining as we go along.
Where do
I was
we?
gonna say,
Where do we start?
you know, let's walk and chew gum at the same time, guys.
Yep, yep. That's what we do. I was gonna suggest maybe starting with the Elijah Craig at 94 proof, because
Sure.
generally one thing, and beyond that, it's kind of up to you guys. I know we have two old elks. Let me just actually walk the listener through what we've got. So from the Bounty Hunter Sugar Light, we've got Elijah Craig small batch 94 proof Rickhouse X floor 6. Then we've got two different old elks, both weeded. One for the Napa location is 57.45, so 114.9. And then the other one here is 114.1, also weeded. So we've got two 114 weeded.
We'll have to do those
old
back to back
elks.
for sure.
Then
Yeah,
we have a barrel private bourbon release of 109. And if you want to know more about barrel, listen to our episode with Will Schragus.
Yeah, that
That
dude
was
knows
awesome.
everything under the sun about
Yep.
spirits.
Check that one out.
I listened to that episode. That was a fantastic episode, guys.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Credit to Will. That was Will. We were just
We were
it was
just
Will's-
tossing him.
It was Will's world. We were just living in it.
Well, Will's a friend, and I've done a lot of work with Barrel over the years, and I've known Will since his days with the rum company when he was working with the JH rum and the Martinique distilleries.
I go back to when I want to learn. I go back and listen to parts of that episode, just remind myself how things work. King of Kentucky, 127.2.
Ooh, there we go.
E.H. Taylor seasoned wood, 100.
You haven't been able to stop talking about that since you heard we were
'cause
getting it.
I've never heard of that one. I've seen like the Tornado Warehouse C and the 18-year marriage, and I've seen the there's like the barrel proof, and there's all these really hard to find.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then there's like another one that I never heard of. I'm like, how many E.H. Taylors are there that I don't know about is the question. And last but not least, we got the Starlight Sauterne 100. So we've got
That's gonna be cool too.
100 proofs here. I almost might suggest those
Kind of hit those in the
follow up.
middle. Yeah.
So let's
start with the Elijah Craig.
Yep, popping it right now. Anything you want to tell us about this one, Micah?
Yeah.
So the name Sugar Light is actually because when we chose this, that happened to be the song or album playing on the mix that we were listening to at the time. We chose this probably about 9 months ago, maybe 10 months ago, right before like real lockdowns began. And so I usually do 2 to 4 barrels of Elijah Craig a year. And
Oh, wow.
normally they're done at the distillery. This one we had to, because COVID was already starting, my plans for trips to Kentucky got canceled in 2020. And so our reps came, brought samples, and we actually picked 2 barrels on that particular visit. But this one really stood out for its balance and its richness. And Elijah Craig is one of those distilleries that, their barrel program is a 94 proof. That's what they release. And that 47% is really just it's a
Sweet
really
spot.
good ABV for that particular whiskey. Elijah Craig itself just works at that ABV. And this one, yeah, we chose this, to get a little into the method that I use. I'm not picking barrels for me, right? Like, we're a retail company. We want people, and a restaurant company. We want people to enjoy this stuff. So I'm picking with a profile in mind, and that profile is usually with specifically Elijah Craig. I want those caramel notes. I want those deep oak, those rich oak tones, and I want just that wisp of spice, that nice kind of underlying tone that might be cinnamon, it might be ginger, but that's really what I'm going for with Elijah Craig, and I feel like we did a good job with this particular barrel for that. There's a lot going on here, so.
Yes. Well, I'm totally with you. I think caramel is a descriptor that gets thrown around in bourbon a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if somebody wanted to see the depth of what that descriptor is, Elijah Craig is certainly one of the places where I would initially point them.
Oh yeah. And for those that didn't know already, this is a Heaven Hill product, and the one overarching characteristic of Heaven Hill being they use char 3 barrels, not that heavy char 4. So you are going to get, in my mind, I think many like to chase and talk about Buffalo Trace all day long, and nothing wrong with Buffalo Trace. Great product. We did a great episode on them, and great stuff all around. There's something special about Heaven Hill to me. And maybe it's because I met the president one time of the company, and he was really, really nice, and we had coffee together. But other than that aspect, there's something about their products that I think the word for me is always going to come back to balanced. They're so well balanced. Everything they make. Now, I was going to ask you, when you talk about Elijah Craig, specifically, you mentioned Elijah Craig. Heaven Hill has a lot of products with this mash bill. So is there something, and I'm not an expert on Heaven Hill by any means, something specific to Elijah Craig that makes it go into the Elijah Craig bottle versus, let's say a Henry McKenna or their own Heaven Hill bottlings? Or because I know this is no longer 12-year, right?
No, and the range, I don't remember what the age on this one specifically was, but the range is from about, for Elijah Craig specifically, is from about 9 to 12.
9 to 12.
They just started a larceny barrel program as well,
cool.
which is their weeded recipe. That's their weeded bourbon recipe, but with their rye bourbon recipe, I think what goes into what really depends a lot on how it's going to taste at that ABV, right? So with Elijah Craig, it's 47. With Henry McKenna, it's bottled in bond, so it's 50. I don't remember off the top of my head what the Heaven Hill 7-year last year release was. I think that's
54?
bottled in bond as well.
No, 7-year bottled in bond, yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's bottled in bond as well. I believe Heaven Hill actually has the most bottled in bond whiskeys of any distillery in Kentucky. I believe
was that the blue label?
All the way down to mellow corn.
Yeah, it is the blue label.
Okay, yeah. That picked up a ton of awards and was quite good.
All these whiskeys we're talking about have danced around the top 5, top 10 whiskey advocate selections almost.
Well, Elijah Craig's barrel proof a couple years ago hit,
and then
number
larceny
1
this year,
Larceny.
and top 5 last year, I think was. Or when I say last year, I'm still talking 19.
Yeah.
I haven't really. 2020 has got its claws still in me. I don't think I'm ever going to recover from that. But
oh yes, you will.
After this tasting, I'll be.
Yeah, I was going to say more of this stuff, right?
Yeah, this will fix it. Brandon, anything to share on Elijah Craig and just in your ultimate bourbon experiences? Because I'm sure you've had
I
as
just
many
love
as
their,
we've had.
I love their toasted barrel that they came out with
The
here
toasted.
recently. It's so good. I mean, anything really toasted is kind of got me here recently. Maybe I'm jumping on the bandwagon, but just that nice little toasted, extra toasted.
We
works
will be
well.
drinking some toasted Michters actually with, I think
The
his
rye.
name-
Oh, it's the top three.
toasted bourbon actually we're going
Oh,
to
the bourbon.
taste, as well as some of their 10-year stuff. So anyone listening, coming out soon,
Michter's coming out.
Michters. Check out our Michters episode.
Yeah, I mean, this is really good. And what blows me away is because I have a bottle of the barrel proof B520, which has gotten a lot of buzz and was absolutely excellent. But it is a monster. I mean, it's way up there in proof. And the thing about that gets me about Elijah Craig is at 94 proof, normally I'm kind of balking at that. Like my initial reaction is like, is that really going to hold up? And it does. And I think it works with that balance. It isn't something that is going to blow you away from an ABV standpoint. If you want that, there is the barrel proof. But this is quite
Here's
good.
what I'll say. I wouldn't grade it, flat out quite yet. I'll come back to that, but I would say I can discernibly tell that this is better than my even most recent memories of drinking regular batched and blended Elijah Craig.
Agreed.
For sure.
Very much agreed.
Like there's something inherently different in the single barrel. And on that alone, I would say, single barrel may be worth, and again, this may be as a retail question. Are you charging more for this than the regular Elijah Craig?
Yes.
How much more? Like what's the charge?
Well, the regular
for that?
Elijah Craig, the regular Elijah Craig is in the 20s, and we're somewhere around 44-ish, 30, between
So
$39.95 and $44.95.
The price
So
certainly
the price
jumps up
in there.
for the single barrel.
The reason for that is more in the limited nature of the product than anything else. I mean, we candidly, we pay more for it. It is a more expensive product at the wholesale market for what it is. But, there's a sense that, price wise, the limited nature, the fact that it is, in my opinion, quite honestly, just a better product in a lot of ways than the batched and blended, because it's a bit younger. It's a bit, this has more nuance to it. I think one of the things that may have been referenced in that article, and this is a little bit of a tangent from the pricing question, but
No. You're going where I was going to go. Go there.
Yeah, the article you mentioned in the beginning, I think one of the things that, and I don't remember reading the whole article, but I remember hearing about it. I feel like one of the things they talked about is I don't want to say a negative, but one of the detractions to barrel programs is simply that with distilleries' regular bottlings, you're getting a more consistent product, right? Like that's the big piece. It's more consistent when it's a blended bottled product that the distillery is putting out regularly. Here's the thing, picking a barrel isn't about what you know about whiskey. It's about how good is it, And if you're a drinker, if you enjoy whiskey, you could pick a barrel because you'll know markers that say this barrel may not be up to snuff for my taste. There's lots of opportunities to taste some stuff that doesn't really meet the mark. And I've done that over the years, and it's kind of how I think I'm at the point in my career where I'm one of the people think about when they think of barrel selections, because I've done a ton of them. So
I want to come back to a question I have.
Yeah.
But don't answer it yet, which is going to be about, turning down barrel picks, which was really the most interesting part of that article. And one of the reasons I really wanted to ask two barrel pickers straight up the question of, have you turned down no, I don't want, but before you answer, I do want to, Brandon.
Yeah, you poured me this. Which one is this?
I just poured, you don't even know what you're drinking. Well, now you do, but
I do. Oh, we got some Old Elk.
We are diving into the Old Elk quickly here because I want to kind of juxtapose the Old Elk barrel picks that are they're within a proof of each other, one proof. So, Brandon, bring us up to speed here. We've got an Old Elk barrel pick did you go to the distillery and pick this, or were you provided samples?
Yeah, this was this was COVID time. So they sent us, I want to say we had 8 different samples to choose from.
Wow.
And they had their straight whiskey, their bourbon, their wheated bourbon. And yeah, so this one was very easy for us initially when we got the samples. I mean, the wheated bourbon, in our opinion, was just far superior to their straight whiskey or any of the other product that they have. I don't know if it was the same for you, Micah, on your samples that you got.
So the wheated that we picked is actually the second barrel I picked with Old Elk. The first barrel I picked with Old Elk was before they had released the wheated. So it was one of their regular bottlings. When they sent me samples for this time around, because it was COVID like it was for you, Brandon, they included a couple others, but I really specifically said I want wheated. So I got mostly wheated. And yeah, if I had had wheated to start with, as much as I loved our first barrel pick, which was a regular rye-based, rye, and they have a really high malted barley content in their corn, rye, barley mash bill. It's very, very high. And I actually really like that because it creates this really beautiful oily texture to the whiskey. And it's that component for me is what makes a barrel pick that special. But once they told me they had wheated recipes, I wanted wheated. It's really easy to sell wheated whiskey. Let's be honest. It's
Yeah.
I'm also sure your group was probably really excited at the opportunity to pick a wheated barrel too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's an easy sell. It's regardless of your flavor profile, you get this wheated bourbon, you're gonna like it. It goes for everyone. And as you kind of mentioned, you're not only trying to pick the best barrel, but you're also trying to pick the best barrel for the masses, right? So you want everyone to be able to like it and enjoy it and not be too crazy off the spectrum in one area or the next. So this one's just right down the middle that everyone's gonna like it.
Well, here's a question then, because so Old Elk, let's just inform the listener for 2 seconds. Old Elk is a newer distillery, or newer brand, I should say, that is the former master distiller of MGP, big producer out in Indiana. Anytime you see something from Indiana that is got an age statement that's older than the distillery that's putting it out, you can assume it's MGP and be right. It's actually, though, it's interesting because you got, I think his name is Greg. I'm going to say it's wrong. Metzi or Metz.
I think it's Metz, but I'm not 100% sure. There is an E on the end of it, so that throws you a little bit.
Gives me might be a Metzi, might be a Metz. But these guys are really growing in popularity. It's a really cool cork that kind of makes the bottle, right? It's got this kind of elkhorn cross-section cork kind of a thing, but it's all sourced whiskey. So here is one of the questions: if it wasn't COVID and you go to MGP to pick the barrel, or do you go to their other facility to pick the barrel?
No, you'd go to Colorado to pick this if it wasn't COVID.
Got it. So they're based out of Colorado.
This is entirely separate from MGP at this point. So Greg left MGP to found this brand.
Yeah.
And they're located in, I can't remember, Fort Collins, maybe?
Fort Collins.
Does it say on the bottle?
Collins. Yeah, Fort Collins.
Yeah.
Among some of the best breweries in the world too.
Distilled in Indiana, though.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure this is, yeah. But this is, Greg had the opportunity to distill mash bills that he wanted to distill, right? Like that's the beauty of being the guy behind MGP, is he can probably pick what he wants to do, from that perspective. So, but you would go, yeah, for this pick, you go to Colorado and make the picks if you were doing a barrel pick rolled out.
Perfect. Well, that's a lot closer to California, so that works for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And it works for you too, Brandon. All right, so it's fight night here because we've got
comparison.
We've got
time.
a little bit. Okay, so I just tried the Bourbon Hood pick, and this is again 114.1, so just a hair lighter. It's really tasty. I'll just start by saying it's delicious. It's absolutely.
It's to me, it's a little bit brighter. Have you had them side by side yet?
Not yet.
No.
Not
okay.
Yet. I was letting the other one kind of air out for a minute on the side. And I just actually finished the first one. I poured a little more just to give. It's got a really, really nice soft nose.
It's fluffy. It's marshmallow. It's really bright.
But at 114, I was expecting bite on the nose. There's none of that. I can get my nose right in there. It almost is softer on the nose than the 94 proof Elijah Craig, which is crazy. And maybe that's a wheat effect. I don't know.
No, Elijah Craig tends to sometimes have a hot nose at whatever proof. Not sure why, but I'm with you there.
This tastes like the same proof as it's just I can't tell it's 114. It's just really, I don't want to say smooth. It's really, really creamy and like
get a little bubble gum for me on it, which I really enjoy, like a
bubble
light,
gum. Okay.
Yeah.
Like a light little bubble gum flavor.
Yeah. The sweetness, because I've had them both now back to back, and I almost want to say this is light versus dark. Like the bourbon charity pick is much brighter. It's a little bit sweeter. It's I can kind of see the bubblegum candy corn.
I'm getting
kind
Starburst.
of
I'm getting orange Starburst. That's what I'm getting. It's got that really like kind of,
well, there's a zestiness to it, right?
almost like nougat. Like if you think about
Like milk chocolate.
Well, no, you know the oh god, big hunk nougat Starburst. It's got that kind of that's interesting. I don't think I've ever used nougat on the show as a descriptor. That's a good one.
It is a good one
for this.
Good for you, Seth. Yeah,
I'm very proud of
then
myself.
and you should be. And what's interesting to me is it's a darker, deeper pick from you, Micah. This is toffee. This is a little bit of plum. This is a little bit more kind of back end barrel coming through.
This one's spicier for sure.
Definitely a little bit spicier.
I'm not gonna lie, I really wish I could taste Brandon's pick right now because I'm really curious about this bubblegummy nougat Starburst.
Well, what's
thing.
so interesting is I feel as though when I'm thinking wheat, I'm actually thinking more of Brandon's pick, right? I'm thinking light, I'm thinking fluffy, I'm thinking sweeter, I'm thinking, and to me, I wouldn't initially immediately peg this as wheated.
Yeah.
But they're so good in their own right.
I think there's more of that weedier, creamier sort of thing happening on the bourbon hood pick, and then on this bourbon bounty hunter pick, it's really got it feels like there's rye in there almost, which is
there's like this dark chocolatey. Oh,
it's they're both delicious, by the way, but
which is so fascinating to me because you guys, and it's in similar proof, same distillery, and I think this is actually the crux of this show, right? This is two people, two palates, two individual visions that have come into bottle, and they couldn't be more different.
That's the beauty of it.
So I actually liked the brighter ones a little bit more from a personal standpoint, but I had a feeling that this was going to resonate more with our audience, and that was really what it boiled down to. And I so far, the fact that people have come back to buy a second, third, and fourth bottle tells me that I'm pretty right on with that so far. So we've had success with it, which has been good, but this is the crux of how we want to choose these. If I chose for myself, I don't know that people would like it as much. I have a unique interest in whiskey. My palate lends more to that lean, bright fruit, very linear tone. And I think our customers lean more to that fat, weighty, oily character. So
I am truly blown away to get to these. This is sort of a side by side, like the pinnacle of side by side for me.
I really haven't tried.
Brandon, we should do a swap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what's interesting is if you haven't had each other's barrel picks, if there was some way to get each other that and to taste it, again, these are polar opposites.
I feel an idea
which is
brewing.
It's so cool.
I think there's an idea brewing. Groups swapping bottles with groups so that everyone gets everyone's picks. Is that already a thing, or did I just come up with something here?
No, that exists to a degree. There are people who do it for sure. I've done some swaps with friends who want you know, we just want a taste of something, right? We don't want to buy a whole bottle. Someone else bought that bottle. We do swaps in that regard. But I haven't done a whole lot of swaps with other people who pick barrels at this point of like what they've chosen. I've done a couple with a couple of friends who are also in the business, but beyond that, not really. And I wholeheartedly will figure out how to get Brandon these things.
You as well, Micah.
I would have pegged this as if someone blind tasted me on Micah on your pick, I would have like thought it was like a Russell's Reserve Wild Turkey or something like that. Like I thought it really reminded me of some of the Wild Turkey characteristics and mouthfeel of a bourbon.
Yeah, when he said oily, absolutely. I mean, it's
but
all that all day.
I really think the cool part here is that both of these old elk picks are better than my other old elk. I got this is a new bottle too. Like I noticed immediately the packaging on this had changed from the old elk bottle.
Oh, it's like tapered now.
Yeah, this is not a stock bowl. I think it's based on a stock bottle, but then they added some elements that weren't, like their name on the back and stuff. And there's like little like area on the front, but the cork is the same, but I have that old bottle with the black top here and different banner and stuff. But these both were better than I had my original old elk pick. I tried it and I was like, it's okay.
Yeah, I remember when you shared it with me too. I was kind of like, it's fine.
It's fine. It wasn't like it certainly wasn't worth like $60+ I think is what I paid for it. I would pay that though for these, which kind of gives you like this thought of know your store, know who's picking, and you can get some good things from brands where you otherwise may not like something you've tried from them in the past.
Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
Can I around on you guys for a second and Brandon as well? When you go shopping for a barrel pick, like when you go to a store to pick whiskey, what do you look for? You know, what are you interested in?
Oh, Brandon, you take that one, Brandon.
Oh man, I want something that's going to be different. You know, I want to go against the grain a little bit. I want something that's going to take my palate on more of a roller coaster. You know, I want to hit like 4 or 5 different tastes. You know, whether it's clove, whether it's, you know, a cherry, whether it's caramel, vanilla. Like I want to go through that progression from the front of my tongue to the back when I'm tasting something, and like, dang, I just got 5 different hits off something totally different. And that's really what I look for. And you know, what whiskey tastes the best or bourbon tastes the best to me, it's whatever gives my mouth the biggest roller coaster. I want to go on that ride. So for sure, that's what I look for.
Ride the lightning.
Yeah.
But Cam, what about you? When you're going to pick a barrel pick from a store or online or whatever, what are you going to look for?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely something that I'm looking for something different. I'm also occasionally, and this sort of goes into the Scotch realm too. I always love it when something gets released at a higher proof than it would be otherwise.
Yeah.
So for me, that's one of the things that I tend to seek out, whether it's whiskey, well, across whiskey, so bourbon or Scotch or something like that. I look for something where it's like, okay, this person went and bottled something that the distillery wasn't going to give me otherwise. And that's really cool to me. And that tends to be what I seek out. Well, I love this. Should we continue on our journey?
Dude, we got to get through these somehow. All right. So
this is
Brandon, why don't you walk us through Starlight? Tell us a little bit about Starlight.
Starlight. So I actually wasn't a part of this pick. This was some people within the charity. This again was right during COVID, right around the 4th of July of 2020. Some of our ambassadors for the charity drove down to Starlight Distillery, which is in southern Indiana, which is 20 minutes from where I grew up. I used to go here on Sundays and after church, hang out at the orchard. And so they started making their own whiskey, you know, probably 5 or 6 years ago. I think this is a 4 or 5 year old age there at Starlight Distillery. It's Phoenician Sauterne barrels, so it gives that kind of light, crisp green apple, kind of like you just finished off like a meal and you're really full and you want something just kind of just clean the palate. That's this right here.
I'm kind of getting peanut butter and jelly sandwiches here, but
on the nose, it's super musky.
Nothing like the
I
Sauterne finish
love
I've
it.
had.
It's
funk.
like that in the barrel room musk, you know, it's funk. It's a little bit of kind of like Saison style funk. And that's actually not really carried too much into the body for me. You're right. It is a little bit brighter as you get down in there.
It's a little bit brighter. I think it was finished 8 months in Sauterne barrels. So it gives it, like you said, a little bit, but it's not over. It's not like overly done.
Yeah, standard finish is usually 6 months for most people, unless you're Bardstown and you're going for like 16 years. But other than that, you're good. So sorry, did I say years? I meant months, but who knows with those guys?
Yeah.
They're getting crazy over there.
Yeah.
I
get like rind, like orange and even almost like lime rind too.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of kind of like brandied cherries.
I get like a candy dried orange peel.
Yeah,
more of
absolutely.
Like a sugary citrus desserty thing, but
there's this like tobacco-y thing in the back though.
It does what you're saying, Brandon. I don't get that. I don't get any super dark notes other than the nutty sort of like
I get this like leathery tobacco on the back end. I really like it. It's quite good.
We got very different notes on that one, Cam. But Brandon, I think what this is doing is what you were describing is that roller coaster from a peanut butter jelly sandwich over into like a candied orange peel. I mean, you got a really transformational whiskey here.
Yeah,
this is
cool pick.
Have you done anything with Starlight, Micah, at all?
So we have 2 more barrel picks coming up here in 2021 with them. That should be around March timeframe. We have a honey finished bourbon coming, and the other one's maple. So maple and a honey finished bourbon sweet. Coming from them.
Going sweet.
We're going sweet. Yeah, so they're great. If you've been to their distillery or not, like you should definitely put it on your radar.
I need to go.
Oh, it's gorgeous. They roll out the red carpet for you. They're doing some amazing things, especially from a smaller distillery standpoint. They're doing it their own way. They're not following the playbook of selling young whiskey. They're letting it age their own private stuff. They're doing great stuff. So definitely check them out. And as you can see with this barrel pick, there's a lot of stuff up and coming with them that's going to be really good down the road.
Yeah, no, definitely intrigued. This is the first Starlight product I've ever tried. And
I haven't even heard of them before today.
They have a lot of labels. They have a lot of products. They might have like upwards of 15 plus 20 SKUs of whiskey. It's crazy.
Wow.
Where in Southern Indiana are they, Brandon?
Bourbon, Indiana, which is kind of about an hour north of Louisville, probably. Like I said, they've got some product that they laid down a long time ago that's now starting to produce some amazing bourbon and whiskey.
I can't imagine the temptation to do something with MGP being in Indiana, but I love that they've done this this sort of, take the time, get it right approach is awesome.
Well, in this right here, this raised $4,000. I think we had 200 bottles of this, raised $4,000 for Norton's Children's Hospital in Louisville.
Oh, yeah.
So,
awesome.
it makes you feel a little bit better when you enjoy it and you know that it's making a difference at the same time.
The coolest charity award like easily goes to you guys. I mean, like I didn't even know like that bourbon and charity could meet.
We're getting fucked up, but we're getting fucked up for the kids.
Exactly.
It's for the kids.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
Yes, it's 175 proof, but it's for the kids.
It's for the kids.
It's drink for a change.
Drink for a change. Is that the motto?
That's the hashtag. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well,
right,
okay.
Let's do this, Seth.
We got to power through a few more of these. Next one here is the E.H. Taylor Seasoned Wood, and just tell me what's going on here. What is this? I never heard.
I just picked out 2 other samples from what I sent you guys that were like my favorite of 2020. So that was the Seasoned Wood as well as the King of Kentucky. 2 totally different flavors that rock my world.
The nose is insane.
I can't even.
Is this sorry? So
Ugh.
is the seasoned wood a pick of the charities, or is this just a
No,
bottle?
no, no, no. I wish.
Mm.
Or like was it an auction item that raised
No,
money?
it was one of the bottles I had that opened last year that I just wanted to share some good bourbon with you guys.
Brandon,
Where did
I
you
know we haven't
where did
met
you
in
get
person,
that
but
guy?
oh my God, thank you.
I never-
I haven't even tasted this yet. And
was
just
was this something that went for sale? Like was this
No,
for
no,
sale?
I have quite the when I started the charity is I donated my bourbon collection. Well, part of it. I have all the Colonel Taylor vertical, so why not share a little bit?
The seasoned
Oh
wood
my
came out what,
God.
2019?
Oh my god!
The season wood was, I think,
Fucking try that.
early. I think it was like 11. Was it 11?
Oh, really? They must have done. They did another one then, not too long ago.
That was the
Oh,
you're not talking the 4 grain.
Damn.
No. There was a seasoned wood that came out not too long ago. Unless I just managed to find one on auction that was from the old batch. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, I think it was sour mash, the Colonel, and then season wood, I believe, and then the cured
Okay.
oak.
Yep, the cured I remember. I never tasted the seasoned wood, so you guys will
Seasoned
have to
wood.
describe it.
Well,
one
we'll
for me.
we'll have to do samples.
That's
Micah.
gonna be hard. This is gonna be
Oh
hard.
my gosh,
hard
yeah.
to describe. But
this is, I mean, to me, this is the roller coaster.
seasoned wood, for those listening, there's toasted oak, there's finishing in other kinds of wine or whiskey or any kind of honey barrels, like you were saying. Seasoned oak is when they let the oak sit outside and get treated by the elements. Is that correct? So it can be anywhere from like a year to a year and a half, and natural organisms will grow on the wood. Is that correct? So
Well, and yeast too.
Yeast
Yeah.
interact with it, and natural organisms and the microbiology of being outside gives the wood an entirely different an array of characteristics that you will never get from charring
Oh my
or
gosh.
toasting or any of these other treatments you can do with oak. I can't think of too many seasoned oak whiskeys I've had to my knowledge. I don't know, Micah, if you know of a few seasoned oak whiskeys. Rarer for sure.
E.H. Taylor is the one. I mean, that's the one that people think of. Seasoned, all wood is seasoned to some degree or not. It's just what you do after the seasoning, right? Most distilleries char, toast, whatever they do, or coopers char and toast those barrels. But all wood is seasoned outside for at least some period of time before it goes into production for creating crafting barrels. From my understanding,
the char kind of overwrites the effects of seasoning. Whereas when you were specifying the seasoned oak, I think it's they haven't taken away from what the elements have done to it. Is that right? Or
I think so. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Brandon, maybe you know the story a little bit from the E.H. Taylor itself, but it's my understanding that there is less manipulation post seasoning to leave those characteristics in place. That's my understanding. But again, I could be wrong. I read a lot. I listen a lot, but I forget a lot too.
well said.
Yeah, Seth, I think both of our reactions is
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
good.
I'm borderline speechless. There are a couple of notes that I have to point out. There is a pungent cherry note for me, which is just kind of cuts right through, and it is phenomenal. And now, granted, this is my first experience with seasoned wood, but for me, this gets into categories that bring my mind back to Claren. Like, to me, there's this like grassy, mossy,
there's a
floral
funk
thing that I almost have a hard time nailing down. That is so drastically, and I'm a huge E.H. Taylor fan. It's so drastically different than anything else they offer.
No, this is not like any of the
not in the least
mainstream products. But I'm getting a little bit of iodine, like in terms of a little bit of that scotchy, seasidey sort of.
I could see that
start, and then I get a sort of a baked apricot, like a really tart fruit that's been cooked down to its sweeter elements. So there's just the faintest hint of that sort of tart tang to it, and then it's really brought to its more central, sweeter, caramelized sugars. That there's a caramelization here that I'm tasting that's coming through. That's beautiful, almost like caramelized onions too. But it's really got
it's
this.
like a fragrance.
I feel like the sugars have been brought to life by heat in a way that a caramelizing effect has incurred. It's really, really tasty, and the proof is perfect, 100 proof. Everything E.H. Taylor does is bottled in bond. So you, other than the barrel proof, so you've got these bottled in bond, 50 proof, 50% of the proofs, and this one, I mean, same elements going into it, but man, coming out,
I
it's
know
totally
it's
different.
wild. There's like this vinous thing going on too. It's like grape peels or something. It's so cool. I mean, it's all over the map in a really, really cool way.
We haven't graded anything on the show, but that's an A+.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible.
We usually
that's a treat. That is a very, very
usually
special
Well, the
treat.
next one's a treat too. If that one's good, the King of Kentucky will blow your mind as well.
Yeah, well, we're gonna jump quite a bit here. 127.2.
I need to have a little water.
I'm gonna have a sip as well. Micah, have you had the King of Kentucky before?
I've had one of the releases of King of Kentucky. I can't remember if it was the one you guys are tasting. Brandon, when was this, the first release or the second?
No, unfortunately, this is 2019. I think
This is
18 was
okay.
the one that was, well received, but the 19 is phenomenal as well.
So King of
I'm
Kentucky
sure I've only tasted the 18 and I thought it was out of this world. But I heard great things about the 19, but unfortunately the allocation I got sold out before I could snag a bottle for sampling. And I can't deny the public what they want. So I can't keep it all for myself.
I feel like you have to have something in your contract, Micah, that's like, hey, I get just one. I just get one.
I will say from the private pick standpoint, I'll pick and choose nowadays. But when I first started doing them, I pretty much took a bottle of each that we did.
Oh, wow.
Been fortunate to do some other cool collaborations. Like I did a collaboration with John Glazer at Compass Box. And,
oh, wow.
I bought a 6-pack of those because I never want to run out of that whiskey. But I don't take as many as I used to, but I do reserve the right to grab a bottle or two of each private pick we do. It's just the more limited allocated goods. We've got such an audience who craves this stuff. I don't necessarily, as much as I want to have a good whiskey collection, I've already got a good whiskey collection and I don't need those bottles.
But you've got to fight for your right to party. Right?
Oh, Seth, we're getting on our lot.
We're getting to the end.
We're
of the
getting
show
to the
here.
end. There
And
you
by
go.
the way, Brandon, you might need a light there, buddy. You're getting dark.
Yeah, the
I
sun's
know.
setting on you, man.
I know. I was trying to figure out how to get some light out here on the patio.
Now, don't get these confused. Cream of Kentucky and King of Kentucky, because Cream of Kentucky, I believe, is bottled out at Kentucky Artisan Distillers, which is the same facility that does Jefferson's and a few other private products, right? So,
Cream of Kentucky is a Jim Rutledge. Jim Rutledge, the old Four Roses master distiller. That's his new brand, and he's in the process of building a facility. But I think it is either bottled at Kentucky Artisan or
it is
might
Kentucky
be
Artisan.
bottled.
I've
It
been
is.
there. Yeah,
it is bottled there.
I
Okay.
talked to Jade, who's the master distiller out there. Jade does a lot of those products, and we had an amazing time hitting some of the barrels with Jade, and we got to try the cognac finish Jefferson's before to come out. Never hit the shelves yet.
Oh, nice.
We were there trying the cognac
Nice.
with Jade. So cool. Their open tank fermentation is something you don't see a lot of that actually, which is kind of cool. Those big oak open tank fermentation tanks. It's really, really neat. But they're small. I mean, they're like 3,000 or 4,000 barrels a year. They're not a they're not a massive manufacturer. So, but King of Kentucky, not to be confused with Cream of Kentucky, which it's funny. They like came out at the same time. I was like, what's going on here? Like, are we just doing things of Kentucky?
Of Kentucky.
dream of Kentucky.
Well, they're
I've
also
got a
both
brand.
historic labels.
Yes, true. There's a
Right.
lot of
Sorry to
that
interrupt
going
you,
on.
but they're both historic brands.
This is the darkest whiskey we've had so far, and that could be the 127 proof, giving nothing to the water here.
Yeah, I mean this is rich, brandy, just
might be the best nose.
Wow,
Might be the best nose.
wow.
What do we need to know about King of Kentucky, other than it's Brown Foreman?
It's delicious. What is that? 16 years? I think it's about 16 years.
Okay.
Age statement. All I know is it's not over oaked. It's talk about, you want oak, but you want balanced. You want age. You want leather.
Oh my God. So
leather.
it's like it's like a ton of weight just sitting on the back of the tongue. It's just
feel like as I drink it, the couch behind me is growing like a tufted thing, and cigars are kind of like rising out of the center here. This screams after dinner. This screams smoky lounge, cigars, and this tastes like I imagine, because I've never had it, the Joseph Magnus cigar taste. Like it just has that cigar-y sort of element to it. This couldn't be more different than anything else we've tasted.
That being said, there is this like really forward brandied sweetness here. Oh, it's just
it's so grippy on the tongue.
It's incredible.
This takes a hold of your tongue and does not let go. Holy shit.
This is one of the few bottles that I would pay the secondary value on, that I think is just well worth it. But
and they don't
puckering.
They don't do a lot of this. Is this sort of like, what would you compare this to from another producer? I mean, is this like,
this reminds me of some of the Bardstown stuff.
A little bit, but I'm trying to equate it to like maybe Bardstown Discovery, or like which has some of the older whiskeys in it, but it's blended.
Yeah.
This strikes me as like some of those Master Keep Wild Turkeys that have those older age statements on them, like the 17-year and whatnot. But at cask strength, which is kind of crazy. Whew. How did it keep that?
From a brand perspective, I think you could also liken it a little bit to like the Four Roses limited edition small batches, things of that nature that wind up with some of those 20 plus, those few barrels of like 18, 20 plus year old whiskey they still have sitting around at Four Roses. Or even, I think the Master's Keep comparison is a really good one that you made, Seth. I think, King of Kentucky, I think is really just meant to be the most special release they can come up with, right? Like
I think it's 8 barrels or something. It's not very much.
8 barrels
it's
total. Wow.
It's a very low barrel blend. Like there's not a lot of whiskey that goes into this, and it's all pretty old, so the yields are low, and they're they really they don't release much of this. I think the first one that was Kentucky only, if I'm not mistaken. You couldn't get it in any other market. It wasn't until the second or third release where they put it out into the marketplace. People just clamor over this stuff.
It is.
I can see why. Like it's incredible.
It's really I mean, that's a treat. That's something you pull out on a rare night, rare occasion. You're celebrating a little something. But that's a celebratory whiskey to me, which there are a few of those out there, and they're just exceptionally rich. That is one of the thickest full-bodied whiskeys I've tasted tonight, and in a while probably. Barrel spirits. Okay, so we did taste a single barrel select bourbon on our barrel spirits episode with Will Schragus. That was a really, really high proof, I believe. It was in the 120s. So it was one of the best things we tasted that whole evening. It was admittedly a Dickel barrel select. I believe it was an 8 or 9 year, and it was 100% Tennessee whiskey. And this is a bottle. I've actually been buying barrel products long before barrel was cool.
Yeah. So Brandon, tell us what we are tasting right now.
Walk us through this, Brandon.
Yeah. So that's their recent private selection that they did. So they combined formula of 4 different recipes from source bourbon from Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, I guess 2 from Kentucky. And so they let you pick the percentage that you wanted. So you could pick, I want 40% the 10-year Kentucky. I want 20% of the MGP Indiana. So you actually got a certain percentage.
You're the blender. You are the blender.
They let you be barrel for a day.
Exactly. So we got to be them, and we got to select exactly kind of what we liked the best out of the picks that they sent.
Before you tell us what it is, can I make a guess here? This has
Go for it.
This has Tennessee all over it, man.
It does, but it has a little Dickel, not too much Dickel, just a little Dickel.
I mean, that's all anybody really needs is a tiny bit of Dickel.
Just a little bit of Dickel.
I knew you were gonna make that joke. God damn it!
It's just the tip, right?
I think we were heavy on the MGP influence based on barrels. They came back and like, this is your profile that you selected. It was heavy MGP influence. I think 30% of it was, I think, 12-year MGP on that bottle.
Now, is that their light whiskey from MGP? Is it the American stuff?
They did not
bourbon,
specify.
Right? I'm telling you right now, I think it is. Because the light whiskey is the only 12-year stuff MGP's got left.
This is super peanut. Oh,
that's Dickel to me.
Yeah, for
peanut.
sure.
Yeah.
But the MGP whiskey, that brings up a question though. If it's 12-year MGP and this is a bourbon, then it was not the light whiskey because you couldn't call it bourbon. So is this a bourbon or is this a whiskey?
It is a bourbon.
So it's not.
No, let me actually get you the actual, because I don't have the bottle on me. Hang on one sec.
Because think about that. If you blend light whiskey in with bourbon, it is no longer bourbon.
True.
So that'll.
Well, so what's interesting to me is Barrel the only company that's essentially allowing you to go one step before? Like, are they the, because all these other ones are all these other companies, it's like, we make it, you pick it. Barrel's going with their just incredibly creative nature seems to take us one step back and say, hey, you get to be a little bit a part of the designing process.
In fairness, Cameron, Maker's Mark does let you get creative. And that's a couple other companies. There are companies that allow you to be involved in the process and actually pull some levers. I know and I believe wholeheartedly that Barrel is no stranger to just bending and breaking every rule and thought and concept around whiskey.
Brandon, walk us through how did you design this? Like, what was your thought process in mind when you actually got to go a step back and pull some of the levers?
So really, this came to us. Barrel's been a big supporter of the charity from like day one. They've been one of the distilleries that have. This is actually our second barrel pick for 2020 with Barrel. So it came to us. They were sponsoring our Thanksgiving Day fundraiser, our Bourbon Giving fundraiser. And we said, besides kicking in a bunch of bottles for our fundraiser, let's do a barrel pick as well. And they said, well, we have this private selection coming out. We want to cut you guys to the first, the top of the list and get you out exactly, 4 different samples of where you guys can actually pick the actual blend that you guys want. And so we just felt like this kind of was, like you said, a little bit Dickel influence, a little bit MGP. It was just a well blend of, they have a 15-year, 13-year, 9-year, and a 5-year-old bourbon that went into this. So It was just a very unique, project to be a part of, the barrel pick, that you don't get this ever, like, to actually blend your own. This is the first one that I've ever been part of, was like blend your own bourbon. Like,
there was that
kind of like
whistle
CYPD.
Remember the Whistle Pig where they sent out those kits to everybody and they had them blend the wheat and the rye and the malted barley and the corn, and like they did like a kit kind of a thing. That was a really fascinating promotion that that Whistle Pig did, and I thought that was kind of what you just said reminded me of that project that Whistle Pig had actually launched.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of the start of where these distilleries are going, not only with some of the blending, but also with some of the collaboration. I would probably see a lot of these distilleries start to, you see it in the beer industry a lot of the collaborations amongst distilleries. I think we'll start seeing that hopefully in the near future with some of these distilleries.
I love that inclusion of the consumer and the groups and the buyers, and also the involvement of being, able to write your own story and do that. It's so much. It's actually from a pick standpoint, it couldn't be more of your own pick than you designing the actual product yourself and then them going and producing it. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what was the turnaround time on that from when you guys started talking to when you actually got the product? Was it months?
Oh, no, like 3 to 4 weeks. I
Wow.
mean,
No way.
Whoa.
they operate fast. A lot of these picks that we've been a part of, they're already in the pipeline. They just, we've been able to, when COVID hit, we had a restaurant that had a high allocation of picks out here that could not financially afford to do the picks anymore. So we were able to rescue those barrels, so to speak, slap our label on it, get a charitable donation to the James Beard Foundation on those, and turn
Wow.
essentially an orphan barrel into a barrel pick that is actually doing good. So yeah, it's you can catch some of these opportunities, whether it's 6 months out of planning or 30 days. Like, let's figure out what to do with this barrel.
It's doing the Lord's work out there. I love it. I love it.
Drink for a change.
You got so drunk you're getting religious on me.
Well,
then.
perhaps.
Oh my gosh. I think that's so cool. I do feel as though I think that would be a great evolution of this process. I mean, you guys have walked us through your creative mindset in terms of picking barrels, whether it be from, it's all from your own palate all the way to the consumer. But there are a select couple of companies that are allowing you to go a little bit further in the process. And I hope that, sentiment continues. This has been so incredibly educational.
This was a monster tasting and absolutely eye-opening and educational experience for me to kind of hear from guys that I've never gotten to go do a barrel pick myself personally. And I know that I think everybody listening to this is going to come back and go, oh, there's so much more than just a sticker or a price increase going into this thing I'm holding, where I got one Elijah Craig that's $29 and another one that's got someone's name on it that's $49 or $50 or $40 or whatever the price is. There's a absolutely substantiated reason for that, and this episode is living proof that every single one of those stickers and every single one of those picks and those labels and those things, those little tiny almost marginal elements to the packaging that you see on these picks, there's so much behind it, and this episode is like living, breathing proof of that. As we talked to two barrel pickers.
Exactly. So and if I could leave someone with advice, it would just be find the people that you like, that you resonate with their palate,
that pick barrels, that do this.
Exactly.
That you trust.
Exactly. Because they're going to bring to you something that's very unique from them. And if you can develop that relationship, you can start to trust them. Exactly. You can start to enjoy the things that they're picking and they're bringing to you.
You'll get so much better whiskey from trusting in the choices that a good retailer or a good organization or charity is selecting. For people listening that want to be involved in the charity, this is really important, I think, at the end here. Sure. How do people get involved with Bourbon Charity? If somebody listening going, man, I'm so inspired by what Bourbon Charity is doing, what is the step you would recommend to the everyday listener to get involved? How can they help? Is it buying a bottle? Is it signing up to be a member? Is it donating? Is it all the above? What is it?
Sure. Well, I would say first, follow our journey on social media, get to know us, get to know kind of what we're doing, develop a relationship with us just from more just from the background, getting to know us and what we're doing. So you can follow us on social media, on Instagram at Bourbon Charity, on Facebook, Bourbon Charity. You want to get more involved, you can join Bourbon Hood. We're 500 members strong, hoping to get to 700 members to be at 100% public donation charity. That's bourbonhood.org. You can check us out. And you can donate into our fundraisers coming up. Like I said, we have a Valentine's Day fundraiser sponsored by Wild Turkey. We got a lot of Wild Turkey. You talked about the Diamond Edition Wild Turkey. We have that in the fundraiser. We have a lot of Pappy. We have PlayStation 5. We have Xboxes. We have all the fun stuff that goes with bourbon that you can enjoy as well. So check us out. Valentine's Day fundraiser. We hope to raise, $125,000 for 5 different children's charities. We have Children's Hospital as well as St. Jude on there. So definitely check us out at bourboncharity.org.
That's amazing. After the show, I'll hit you up. I'll try to figure out a way.
That'd be great.
I can try and participate a little bit with my company and stuff.
Well, guys,
awesome. Thank you.
I'm not sure what to say other than a huge thank you. This is incredible.
Thank you for the whiskey. Thank you for the time tonight. Thank you for the education. And this is going to be an amazing episode for sure. So, you guys were it. I mean, this was amazing.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Really, really, really appreciate you having us on, and this is a lot of fun. Oh
yeah.
So thank you.
The spirits consumed on this show are available at caskcartel.com. They are America's largest online premium spirits marketplace. You can follow us on social media at Cartel Hour, where you can find information about upcoming episodes as well as the free spirits giveaways we do quite often. And if you're a spirits brand that would like to come on the podcast, please email us at host@cartelhour.com or send us a direct message on Instagram. Our theme music is by Verified Picasso. Thank you everyone for listening, and remember to always drink responsibly and in good company.